pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks for being here, everybody. Do we have any changes to the agenda? And if we don't, we would entertain a motion to approve the revised agenda here. We have a couple revisions under 9 and letter A under that.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
A motion by Becky, second by Mike to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Agenda is approved. Guests in open forum, do we have anybody here tonight to speak to the council? All right, we'll move on to number 6, committee reports, presentations, and awards. Mr. Kua is going to update us, I think, on golf committee and speak a little bit about Park and Rec as well.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We held the golf committee at Pebble Creek Golf Club on Tuesday, February 24th. We talked about a few items that'll be before you tonight. One on the consent agenda regarding asset disposal. This time of year, it's pretty customary that we take some really old, kind of out of repair equipment and take it to auction and get what we can for it and then reinvest that in. So that's in the consent agenda. We updated the group on the pond lining project that was part of our 2026 capital improvement plan. As you drive up 23 on Sherburne, you can see, if you look into the golf course, that work is underway as far as dredging out the pond. So making progress there. As well as I'll be back up shortly with the clubhouse improvement project for 2026. But it's always a great day when you get to see the ice and snow melting from the golf course. So hopefully our opening is not too far away. With that, answer any questions you have. Otherwise, I'll move into a brief update on Parks and Recreation Commission.
Anything for golf? Sounds good. All right, please continue.
Yeah, we did not meet this month for Parks and Recreation Commission. However, one of the main projects we're working on right now is the city of Becker acquired parkland, 6 acres on the east side of the Elk River to serve our community that was underrepresented as far as parkland. So we're in the community outreach phase of that. So one of the calls to action of the members of the commission was to give feedback on some potential names, which were dead even between 2 names. So as it would turn out, more work to do there, as well as approving a survey that'll go out to community members to provide feedback on the play experiences of the new park. So that's the update for this month.
Exciting.
What were the 2 names that were dead even?
East Elk Park and Sandhill Park, and paying homage to the Sandhill crane, which is obviously very prominent in our community. So
the Mike Doring Park didn't make the
Shoot!
we're still accepting options.
Mike Doring Park.
Don't you dare.
Little statue.
Right, and then Mike's gonna supervise the park too for 8 hours a day, so we appreciate that, Mike. All right, any update on kind of like timeline on that park then?
Yeah, so we're going to be launching the community survey in the Becker Bulletin that would go out to residents mid-March, but you'll see some QR codes for that survey sooner than that. But we do have funding set aside that'll kind of get that direction from some of the residents as well as Parks and Rec Commission, city leadership and staff to kind of see what that play experience. But when it's a clean slate like that, it's kind of a fun opportunity to engage everyone. But we do have plans of, getting some turf restoration, some grading done, parking lots, things like that, as well as moving on whatever these play experiences are. We've got some ideas, but we want to make sure they're aligned with what the folks on that side are looking for.
Awesome. Any other questions for Josh? All right, thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to Joint Powers Fire Board.
Fire Board, excuse me, we met on February 23rd. We took a resolution where we accepted a donation, and I did not have it written down who it was, so my apologies. I will bring that next month. The transition with HK is going well, with the new services there. We did update our accounts payable procedure, which we talked about. We'll actually have a finalized one. We talked through some of the edits of that, so I guess that's still in process there. That's all I got. Unless you have anything else you can.
No, I think you did well. Any questions for Rick and Fire? All right, joint planning, we met last Tuesday, February 24th. Really two items we looked at. We're looking at I believe it's an interim use permit down by kind of Salida Crossing. One of the local garbage companies is gonna be establishing a collection point in the township there. So people, instead of throwing your dressers and junk in the ditch, could actually go there and properly dispose of it. So we would encourage all area residents to do that here in the future. So we looked at that. And then the township's in the process of redoing their ordinance. So we looked through a lot of updates to the ordinance review, kind of the similar process we went through with the UDO. They're going through that same process. So Jacob and Austin have done an awesome job representing the city and helping us out with that. And we're due to get some more updates, and maybe next month we'll be able to act on that piece.
Sounds like you approved the permit.
We did not yet, because it's currently not a permitted use until we redo the ordinance.
Oh, okay.
But they're able to do some of the work there, just not accept the garbage and things yet. But they purchased some of that property and they're establishing some of the things they're permitted to do, but collecting the garbage and the junk, they can't do that.
It's not actually garbage, it's junk.
Yes, not garbage. They're not gonna collect garbage, sorry. Yep. Be items similar, like there'll be electronics, no household hazardous waste, but electronics. I think they even mentioned they'll probably do tires. And
Okay. That's good, sounds
yeah,
good.
Stuff that would normally end up in the ditch.
yep. Any questions about joint planning? Okay, and then budget and finance.
Budget and finance, we met on the 24th of February. We did get an update, if you know, on the Edgewood project for this year. We, because we are now a state aid city, so that was a state aid street, and we were potentially, they give you the X amount of dollars per year, and then they also allow you to, it's basically that zero, it's like a 0% loan on the next 4 years you can take for the next several years. That was approved, so I know that was one of the things we were looking at for funding that. So that did get approved there, but the state approves that. So so that did come through. So the work on Edgewood obviously still continues. And let's see, there was one other thing. Oh, it's yeah, we just had a little bit. We did a little bit more of a deep dive on the out on golf and cost of goods sold. That we usually do. You make an adjustment for the end of the year where you count your inventory and all that. So we had a little bit of a deep dive on that, and that was about all I got there.
Okay. Any other questions for Rick on budget and finance? All right, then we'll move forward to number 7, board committee and consultant reports. Mr. Lisson is up for the final design phase SLA for Edgewood Street.
I had to take my time slowly like Phil did, so I didn't want to
That's
upset.
right. Thanks for keeping it
Do what I can.
real.
There you go. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we have an RCA and resolution for your consideration, Resolution 2612. It is for the final design phase supplemental letter agreement with SEH for the Edgewood Street and Trail Improvement Project. We have been working with SEH for the proposed improvements to Edgewood Street back in July of 2025. Council did give approval for the preliminary work. That included topographical survey work and soil borings. That SLA had covered that preliminary work so that our engineers could get a better understanding of the corridor, what Edgewood is, so that they could work within the design parameters that the MSAS standards bring. So this is the first project the city's done as an MSAS street. So that's been a bit of a learning process. So Randy and Bryce are doing a good job helping us through that. And now that that preliminary work is complete and the initial concept is put together and approved by MSAS, we need to finalize the plans and get the project out for bid. So this SLA agreement would allow for that, and since the work is outside of the master agreement with SEH, this SLA will capture that work. The tentative plan, just to keep you guys up to date, would be to still bring plans and specifications back to council for consideration on March 17th. They will also be submitted to state aid, so again, once we have the final plans, give them back to the state aid people again, make sure they're still good with everything that we have. And then depending upon their comments, hopefully that doesn't change our timing. We're shooting for the 17th, but we'll see what they have to say. We'd still, like we said, we'd still like to get the project out for bid in March and then award the project in April. The timeline, again, like we said, is a little fluid, but that is still what we're working for. Phil doesn't want to lose time and, to get this out for bid and get it going, so. More to come, but we want to give you an idea of what the timing is. This project has been discussed with Public Works Committee and with the full council. So this would be the next step towards completing this project. The cost for the SLA is $104,700, and this was planned for funds from the MSA fund. And we also will keep it separated too in case there's any overages or things where we have to use our street CIP, but the plan is to use those MSA funds for this. That's all I have on that part. And so finally, I'd be looking for a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2612, resolution approving a supplemental letter of agreement with SEH for final design engineering for the Edgewood Street and Trail improvements. Project would be appreciated. And I do have backup from SEH here. If you guys have any questions that are too tough for me to answer, so they were kind enough to join us.
All right. Questions for Chris?
No, I don't have any.
You both Bryce and Randy.
Like he said, we've been talking about this for quite a while, so.
We have. Do we get any confirmation on the 23rd at all, Greg?
I'll have it tomorrow.
Okay.
Phil will be back tomorrow, but
Okay. Is that something we can, yeah. I did talk to Greg. I just think this is a really public project and I think we need an open house just to let people know what we're doing. So I asked Greg if that could be incorporated. So we've looked at a date here a little bit later this month. We're just trying to see if we could do that, but just a 5 to 7 p.m. just because people are asking about the trail, they're asking about curbing, they're asking about how many crosswalks, are we gonna put more lighting up there? Given the tragedy there last summer, there's just a lot of public focus on this, so. I know we don't always do an open house, but I think this is a well-traveled road with a lot of public interest, so. I think it would be warranted.
yeah, tentatively March 23rd.
Here, 5 to 7, right, if it worked.
I make a motion, we approve resolution 2612.
Okay, we have a motion by Mike for resolution 2612. Do we have a second?
Second.
Rick seconds. Do we have any further discussion? Randy drove all this way. Anybody want to ask him anything?
Randy, tell us about PFAS.
Yeah.
No, that's Chris. Yeah.
I don't want to talk about PFAS.
Thermal stratification, just kidding. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. That resolution carries. Thank you, Chris. Next up, Josh has the Pebble Creek Clubhouse improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Tonight, we have, as part of our 2026 capital improvement plan for Pebble Creek, we have some clubhouse improvements that we've been working through and we're proposing for your consideration this evening. So we had planned $20,000 in our capital improvement fund for 2026 for the upgrade of various furnishings and equipment at the clubhouse. They're itemized there. Basically, the purchases would include upgrading our bar stools, so that's 18 bar stools. When we had initially expanded the bar back in 2019 to more of a horseshoe shape, we had purchased some pretty basic economically priced bar stools, as well as other seating. They're starting to crack a little bit, and as most are aware, the length of stay of a guest at a bar is a little bit higher, so we wanted to upgrade that seating experience. So we're proposing replacing 18 of those bar stools. We would keep the ones that are in the best condition because our high top tables throughout our dining room also use those same stools, so we would just replace one that are worn down with the remnants from this project. We're also really focusing on kind of completing the kitchen equipment upgrades that we've been working on over the last few years. Specifically, a dual oven, so it's an upright dual oven, a 2-door refrigerated prep table, an upright reach-in freezer, and then our infrared food warmers that are kind of at the pass where the food goes from the back of the line into our food runners' hands is not functioning, and then some various utility carts and shelving. These pieces of equipment are like for like what we're proposing, nothing new into our kitchen, but we've gone through numerous repairs. For instance, the dual oven is original to the kitchen. The lower unit doesn't function. The upright freezer, we've gotten quotes, and it would be about 65% of the cost of a new one to repair the old one. So we're just looking to replace just non-functioning and kind of worn out equipment. With those kitchen equipments, basically every piece of major equipment in the kitchen would have been replaced in the last 5 years, and most of them within the last 3 years. And that is with the exception of the walk-in freezer, the walk-in cooler, and the hood ventilation system. But that puts us in a really good position to continuing our business there, and hopeful that we can replace those items. This has been discussed with Golf Committee, and they're supportive of bringing it to council for your consideration. Like I said, $20,000 was budgeted for this clubhouse improvements this year. This plan would not exceed that. I think it comes to about $17,750. So kind of right up to that number, but we would not plan to exceed that. Be happy to answer any questions that you have. Looking for a motion and second to allow staff to carry out the 2026 clubhouse improvement project as presented. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, anybody have any questions for Josh?
Nope.
All right, anybody care to offer a motion on the 2026 clubhouse improvements?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mike, seconded by Becky. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to administrator and staff reports. Number 8, letter A, we have a purchase agreement for the industrial park lot. Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Before you tonight, we have a purchase agreement for the 1.41 acre industrial property that the city acquired. I would say it's probably a month ago at this point, so pretty recently. And we do have a buyer for that. The buyer is here tonight as well from DM Equip, Max Pribble. They're also connected to CMP Attachments, which you may know out of Clearwater. So
Clear Lake.
Or Clear Lake, excuse me. Thank you. The use would be for light manufacturing, assembly, and sales. So we purchased the lot for $45,000. Again, one of the agreements that we talked to Mr. Hughesby about when we purchased the lot is we wouldn't sell it for more than that, plus some of the staff time involved in acquiring it and selling it. So the total purchase price would be $46,500 for the lot. Couple of notes in the draft PA, the property contains some stormwater. They're aware of the basin that's in there. Mr. Pribble has reviewed the PA as well, so he's taken a look at that, and legal has reviewed it. But there is some stormwater, so it just requires that the buyer would execute any agreements deemed necessary to drainage utility easements necessary by us, and maintenance agreements for that stormwater ponding, just to make sure that it doesn't impact anything else. And then in the event construction hasn't commenced within a year on a facility, the city would have the ability to repurchase the property. But that's just to protect the asset in the future. So again, we're looking for a motion and a second to approve resolution 2611, which would approve the sale of the property to DM Equip Incorporated. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Should we get to that point where the city would potentially want to repurchase it, would that be at the same price?
Yes, I think we talk about that in the PA itself. If it doesn't, it should say that in there, but yes, it would be at the same price. And I want to say it actually does. Hold on one second.
I make a motion, we approve purchase agreement, resolution 2611.
Okay, we have a motion by Mike. Rick still had a question out.
Or we can do discussion, I guess.
Yeah. Do we have a
Yeah.
second?
Oh, excuse me, sorry, Mayor.
That's
Didn't mean
okay.
to interrupt. So it would be for the same purchase price, yeah. Okay. I thought.
We have a motion by Mike.
I'll second.
We have a second by Rick. Do we have a timeline?
I don't know what the construction timeline, just getting it in, but I don't know if Max
Pribble, do
wants
you
to
wanna-
tell you.
Yeah, well, basically it's,
You wanna come up here just so we have you on,
yeah,
so we can hear you? Welcome to Becker, by the way.
thank you. I'm excited to join you guys. So basically, we're looking to start construction almost as soon as the ink dries. Once this purchase agreement goes through, we're gonna go forth and get some bids for some different kind of buildings, whether it's post frame or steel frame. And then we're hopefully gonna be moving into a building, sometime in June or July. That's kind of our timeline. We wanna move fast and we wanna start contributing fast, so.
Wow,
Nice.
boy, that's awesome. Do you wanna tell us a little bit about your company?
Yeah, so we're kind of a light manufacturer and an equipment dealer for underground utilities. So what we do is basically we make and then we outfit contractors with equipment that installs, telecommunications, gas pipeline, power line, all underground basically. So whether it's wear parts, blades that actually install fiber and duct, and then we do set up dozers with cable plows that go out on jobs and install utilities across the country, basically. So,
Great. Well, welcome to the industrial park. We're happy to have you.
yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Any further discussion or questions?
Nope.
Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Motion carries. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. That was pretty efficient. We just owned it for a month and got a roof going up, so that is awesome.
Nice if all of our property went like that.
Right? That's our new rule. You got a month once we got something, Jacob. Got it. All right, no pressure, buddy. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Mr. LaRude.
Mayor Kobinger, city council members, items for approval, review, or adoption on tonight's consent agenda include the revised hiring and termination report, payment of the bills, the minutes of the February 17th regular council meeting, the 2026 SCORE funding grant agreement with Sherburne County, and disposal of Pebble Creek Golf Course surplus equipment. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I do have one question, just on the SCORE grant, and I don't know, Chris, if you know this. I know people need to get new cards, and has there been any more talk? I know last year that was kind of a deficit to grind everything. Did we ever come up with any further information?
Chris, you have to come over.
Yeah, so cards, they were reset January 1st, so if you have your existing card, you can bring it into City Hall in Big Lake, Becker, or Zimmerman. They'll reestablish the card at no charge. We did change, so now each household can have 2 cards. So the second card is $10. In the past, you were only supposed to have 1 card, although we found when we reset the system that wasn't always adhered to, so. So that is in process. As far as the grinding goes, so the county changed I think they heard all three cities kind of concern about the rising cost of grinding and that kind of thing. So they put out a request for quote for the grinding. They are handling the grinding, so they took bids on that. They have a contract with Toff's Outdoor Supply out of Now Then. So he was hoping to get in and grind our site here, but road restrictions went on, so we'll have to wait a few weeks now. But so they will invoice the county directly for those grinding costs. All material is hauled to Vonco. That is the site for that waste material to be deposited per that SCORE agreement. And so the cities aren't involved in that piece of it anymore. So what we do now is quarterly we'll submit our costs related to like our internet connection out there, electrical costs, staff time, those kind of things. And we're still responsible for security of the site, maintenance of the site. But the county has kind of taken over the grinding piece of it, so which I am very excited about, because that was kind of the hard part for the different communities, and we used different people, and then there was different rates, and some were getting more, some were getting less. At this point now, it's kind of, they're committed to at least one grinding a year, and then if things, depending upon how the season goes and how much you have, if there's existing funds or other, if they have SCORE funding left, we can ask for another grinding or that kind of thing. The other thing that we battle with sometimes is when people bring debris like stumps, excuse me, logs that are too big that the grinder can't take. What do we do with those? In the past, we've often hauled them out there if we have enough SCORE money left, it would cover those costs. Sometimes we didn't after the grinding. That is also supposed to be included with the contractor that does the grinding. So if we have some stumps that were left there that weren't supposed to be, we can contact that contractor and we'll come get them and dispose of them. So I feel like the county really did listen to some of our concerns and made some nice changes. So it was good to hear. So. Yep.
All right, and maybe just a quick note that that's why the grant went from 55 or whatever it was to 15, because we no longer have to pay for that.
Correct.
So that came out of budget and finance as well.
Yep.
I didn't mention that.
Yep.
Sure.
The stumps, last year we had stumps that you made people come back and pick back up again.
Correct.
Is it all stumps are not allowed, or is it a certain size?
Nope, no stumps, no root balls of any kind. So even small root balls from bushes and things. The problem is that they can contain dirt and or rocks. And so that's very hard on the grinder. So the grinders will just throw them off to the side anyway. And then it's a pile they have to take away. So the county, again, it's still on us to try to maintain that. We have cameras out there. We do monitor that some. Trying to catch everybody that might dump something is a horribly time-consuming event. So, but we do monitor the site. We will check it usually, Mondays, Thursdays, a couple times a week. It's not necessarily those days, but I just threw them out there. To kind of see what's out there. If we do find piles that have things in there that are not supposed to be there, we will go back on the camera and look at them. We do work with PD to make contact in times. Oftentimes, if the person's willing to come back and get it, it's kind of where it ends. Take your stuff back. It's not supposed to be here. Sometimes we can't catch them. Trailers now are getting fancier and fancier, and most of them have covers and things, so it's hard to see, did it come in on this trailer? I can't tell. I can't see where it dumped, but there it is in the pile now. So yes, we do the best we can to catch it, but some of that disposal still has to happen, so.
How far back can you go on when you're viewing?
I think we're a couple of weeks, I believe.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to tell Rob to change that now too, so people don't think about it.
Yeah, that's right. We're always watching, right, Chris?
Right.
We're always.
Maybe it's not a couple of weeks.
Everyone takes shifts.
Right. Well, and we have the new stump detector out there too.
That's right, yes.
So
Yes.
there's that technology, so.
We went from the 2,000 to the 5,000 models.
Yes,
With radar, as you drive across, it can just scan your whole vehicle.
right.
Oh boy, tin hats will get going now.
We're kidding before
Yes,
we
we're
get
kidding.
phone calls.
Yeah, we're kidding, just kidding.
Kidding, kinda.
Humor.
All right. Any other questions on the consent agenda? I don't think we had a motion, did we? Shannon, did I have a motion on that? All right, I lost track. Sorry about that. Anybody care to make the motion to approve the consent
I
agenda?
make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mike, second by Becky to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Consent agenda is carried. Anniversary announcements. March anniversaries, full-time. We have 7 years for our deputy clerk, Susan Nachi. congratulations.
There you go.
I feel like we should clap or something. I don't know.
I know, you're.
All right, there we go.
She likes the
That's what's
attention.
putting up with us for 7
Anticlimactic
years.
there. Yeah, right? All right, part-time. Mark Luke, our building inspector, 3 years. Rebecca Andres, Becker Community Center, 12 years. Tracy Otto at the Community Center, 12 years. Bonnie Kolbinger, it's not my wife, at Pebble Creek for 5 years. So congratulations to all those employees. Council has in front of you just a copy of the official complaint letter that was sent to the Postal Regulatory Commission. As I talked to someone in DC last week, they assured me that our post office was not closed because it wasn't listed on their dashboard. And I assured them it was closed because the building does not exist, so we thought maybe an official complaint letter was in store. So that was sent on Monday. And just to thank you to Senator Smith and Congressman Emmer, they've both sent letters here in the past couple weeks and are definitely working on it, so. Now they will have 45 days to answer our official complaint, and if it's not rectified, then it will open a public docket where we can all start complaining. Kind of like, it's a docket process, kind of like the Minnesota PUC uses. So we'll see, at least there might be a little more teeth in that. Questions on the post office?
No question, but a comment. You did a good job on the news.
Oh, well, thanks, Mike. Yeah, thank you to Sherman State Bank, Ruck. We tried to get some businesses there. It's really amazing how much mail is being returned. The bank has had their P.O. box since, I believe, 1980. It's been P.O. Box 428 since then. And there's properly addressed mail to Sherburne State Bank at P.O. Box 428 with the correct zip code, and it's getting returned as undeliverable. So there's definitely something in the machinery. It's not our local people. We want to say that. We appreciate our local delivery folks. I've talked to them. It's not coming to them, and they're not stamping undeliverable. So that's happening back somewhere in the operations software or whatever, so. The Postal Service said it was isolated incidents. If you saw the big tub of return mail the bank has, that's not very isolated.
It's isolated to Becker.
Yeah, correct. 55308, so. All right. Anybody have anything further to come before council? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
One second.
We have a motion by Mike, second by Rick. All in favor of adjourning, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion to adjourn is approved at 5:33. We are adjourned. And we'll take a couple minutes here and then we will move into our executive session.
Is there any way you can get a copy of it?
Absolutely.
I want a digital copy.
Are you recycling?
There you go, sir.
Shut it all off.
We're gonna talk about the 10 to 25 intersection.
Hey, Joe. Got a thumb drive? Go ahead and stick her in there. We'll.
See ya.
Is there a reason that one is not?
Administrative find.
We take a little navigating here to get the right.
Let's see here.
Round table, which, if anybody, it'll mostly be this presentation. But we also.
Okay, let's go up to Becker and city council presentation.
This one here?
Nope, the actual folder.
Open house that I talked about.
And then
That's
this-
the one, the
And then
PowerPoint.
this one here.
Which will be, from 5 to 6.
Oh, where's the slideshow button on this? There it is, right down here. There we go.
All right.
So there's a show, yours is, have the next one.
Okey-dokey, thank you. And, did I retain that first spot on the agenda? Is that, you were thinking that? Sounds great. All right, thank you.
It's either end of July, early August.
Greg, it sounds like.
Kaler was his last name.
And then you said open house.
Open house for the 10 and 25 project is Tuesday in March of from 5 to 7 also.
Now that you think about it, that's really weird you never did.
Yeah, oh, I hear you.
That's what they're gonna be presenting.
That's funny.
In the same installation as the-
Yeah, it just took 7 years. Right?
They're doing a preliminary engineering.
Ask and you shall receive. That is so funny. Yeah, I guess I never even thought about that. Okay, you guys didn't have one. God, you guys are kind of important now.
They're gonna hate me if I don't hang around.
I could have given you mine. I just borrowed you mine. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's right, I got the good stuff, don't I?
Somebody does. Ooh, look at that.
That's the regular, there's the good ones, but they're, Robin has them.
I gave Robin all the orange ones, yeah.
Oh, and the cat's away.
There is a note in mine that says, Richard, stay away from my mints.
I don't sit on EDA anymore, and that's where I sat on EDA, so.
See, here it is.
Really?
Stop eating my mints, Richard.
Richard. Well, now, are you on EDA?
Yes,
So that's your spot?
it is.
Yeah. See.
Oh, hell, now I'm gonna have to change my
No.
notes. To I see you.
Ready to roll?
Yeah.
All right, it is 5:37. We will call the City Council Executive Session of March 3rd to order. And our first agenda item is the Highway 10 and 25 intersection with Mr. LaRude.
Mayor Colbinger, City Council members, the planning project at the Highway 1025 intersection has been underway for a couple of months. TKDA and SCH. TKDA is the lead engineering firm, and SCH is in a supporting role to lead the planning effort. We do have a open house that's scheduled for next Wednesday, I believe. And I invited Joe Weaver, he is the project manager for TKDA here, to come tonight to just give you an update on where things are in the process. And with that, I'll turn it over.
All right, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Again, my name is Joe Weaver with TKDA. I am the project manager of this planning phase of the project. Our overall goal is to start to define exactly what the needs are out there in that area to achieve some of the benefits that we're looking for a grade separation at this location. Folks may be familiar that this is something that's been studied previously by both Becker and Sherburne County, but there's a need to refresh, if you will, some of the data that's coming in that we're using. But it is our hope that we can utilize this to show some momentum to get future funding for the actual construction of the project. So, as a means of an introduction here, I'll just go briefly through the project location and some things. This is what I plan on. I've only got probably a dozen slides or so, but I just wanted to go over the actual overview of the project goal itself, in addition to the location, talk a little bit about how the schedule will map itself out, as well as some of the specific issues we have out there and what those opportunities are for correcting those with the grade separation. As many of you know, the project location is where US 10 crosses 25. Obviously, US 10 is not the only thoroughfare going in that east-west or diagonal direction, if you will. Also, the BNSF has rail tracks there that get used on a daily basis. The need for a grade separation would address several things, safety being the primary. There's also recognition that development in this area is something that is very fluid, but we want to stay open and provide the opportunity for infrastructure that development can use as they come in and want to do so. We have a couple of other specific issues out there. You can see that the goals include that safety that I just mentioned, but it enhanced the mobility and system reliability for the local traffic, freight, and emergency services. Emergency services are important because if there is a train crossing and emergency vehicles need to get from side A to side B, obviously they're still at the mercy of the train crossing. So to address that with the grade separation makes good sense there. US 10 has varying degrees of usership, if you will. There's a lot of traffic, vacationing traffic, if you will, on Fridays and Fridays and Sundays, usually. So again, to grade separate the north-south traffic from that US 10 traffic and the rail traffic is really the goal here. I mentioned supporting future economic growth, but also to minimize environmental and property impacts. Environmental impacts occur when vehicles are waiting for a train to go by and all that exhaust just sits there and piles up. To be more efficient and allow traffic to move more freely will have better environmental impacts as well. The construction of the project is yet unfunded. We recognize that, but we also know the process is such that when momentum is gathered by having a project that the preliminary phases have gone through, not only the public engagement that Greg mentioned earlier that's going to start next week to get public buy-in, to find out what the residents' needs are and how we can meet those with the project. It also has environmental aspects to it whereby we have to basically go through the process to look at many different alternatives and then have criteria that are set that we actually use to evaluate those different alternatives. So again, any of that we can get done up front is going to position ourselves better to get the future funding to actually construct this project. So again, our schedule doesn't have hard dates at this time because we're still discerning some of the information going into it. The funding situation, just as a side note, does actually affect the timeline even right now, because if there's federal dollars versus state dollars, there's different stops along the way, if you will, for the process. So again, we're working to define that right now. We've already talked about really covering both bases, working under the assumption of whether it's federal or state funding, that will build that into the overall schedule. So we're just getting started right now. In fact, the meeting this next Wednesday is really just to introduce the project to the public and start to solicit and get their input coming back to us so we can make sure that they're heard. If there's any specific issues that we haven't yet captured, making sure we're incorporating that into our design alternatives. So, got too many things here. Issues, I touched on these before. Safety, not only the high traffic volumes, but the at-grade crossing itself, like I say, is problematic. Anytime you have vehicles crossing in the path of a train, you can imagine even with gate arms that come down, it's something we'd like to avoid if we could. And it's currently an unsignalized intersection. So again, to allow those movements to occur simultaneously without having impact on one another is really the goal here. Travel delay, that could be, talk about that for quite some time, but obviously the instance that I mentioned earlier, while traffic in the north-south direction, is waiting for a train, obviously we've got delay there. But the overall intersection changing to an interchange would provide benefits for both the US 10 traffic, safety benefits for the US 10 as well as the crossing traffic as well. Emergency response, I kind of jumped ahead. I already talked about that a little bit, but obviously you can recognize that if an emergency vehicle has to wait for a train, that becomes very problematic. Economic development, again, I mentioned that's kind of a fluid situation, but I think it's in everybody's goal to have a project that recognizes that future development is going to occur. What exactly that looks like, we might not know at this point in time, but we know that the infrastructure upgrades are going to be able to serve that and make it a more attractive place for people to settle into. Multimodal connectivity is another aspect of this. When we say that, we're talking about pedestrians and bikes. But right now, I think you have to go east to Liberty to get some kind of pedestrian crossing, and that's an at-grade crossing. So obviously, it would be a lot more inviting for a trail system to be able to cross over US 10 and the railroad tracks than try to fight that. There's also an opportunity with any of these improvements that we're going to be looking at. And I'm looking on the screen, but there isn't anything yet because that's part of the process too. When we come to that very first meeting, the environmental process requires that we don't have any lines on paper yet. We're soliciting the input of the public, and then we're going to utilize that to help create those alternatives. But those alternatives will create some opportunity, like I say, for that multimodal traffic, pedestrians and/or bikes to be able to cross the high-speed roadway and rail line. We started by talking about the public open house. It's the very first open house for this particular project. The date and time on that is next Wednesday, the 11th at 5 to 7 here at Becker City Hall. There is an alternate date in case something would pop up that Thursday is going to be the alternate date on that. There have been invitations that are sent out in addition to the presenters from the design team. We will also invite any council members that would like to come to please do so, just to get a feel for the project. That same invitation has been extended out to MnDOT as well as Sherburne County, Andy Witter's folks over there, and the township. So again, as we have multiple open houses and are able to kind of share the progress we have on the project, again, it may become a lot more fun to look at pictures and stuff like that, but it's an important first step that we come in with a blank slate.
Quick question, Joe, were landowners in that area invited as well?
I think so.
So I think we identified 7 that were directly around. They get direct notice, but then I believe a mailing went out to everybody within 1,000 feet.
I think it's much more than that. I think it's more than 1,000 feet.
So it was well over, I believe, 500.
Yeah, there's a selected group.
So the Norm Johnson farm was,
Yes,
okay.
yes,
Did it go to residents too?
yes.
Okay,
You didn't get one.
I'll ask my wife.
Oh, I think they went out a week ago.
Probably get it next week.
Post mail? They went out?
Undeliverable.
That open house is here, is that open house right here?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Anybody have any other questions? I didn't realize you were done, sorry, I thought I was interrupting there.
Maybe just, you'll hear this next week too, I'm sure, but I know when we looked at this in 2017, 2018, which are probably the past documents you probably will see. We mentioned the Norm Johnson farm, and they've been there many decades. And they were concerned about, they own land on both sides of the road now, so I think they were leasing it at one point in time. Now they actually own on both sides of 25 north of just the first property north here.
Okay.
And so I know there was concern there about them being able to, if they have a big combine, they're not gonna buy 2 combines and leave one on each side of the street. I mean, they gotta be able to cross the street, so.
Yeah.
I know that will come up next week. They will be for sure one of the people there, so.
Okay.
That is definitely something, they're very involved in the community. They've been here longer than me, longer than probably just about everybody in the room, almost everybody in the room. Definitely, some, people want to, respect as much as possible there, so.
Yeah. Well, we welcome that kind of input, and it's those specific things that we couldn't capture unless we have those folks in attendance and sharing that information with us. But with a grade separation as our goal, we do have opportunities to look at alternate ways for farm vehicles to cross rather than crossing lanes of traffic. Now, that's about all we can say right now because obviously there's costs involved with those solutions. But again, to have it all out in front of folks so we can take a look at what the costs, the benefits, and the setbacks to all the different solutions are and come to a conclusion is the process we're looking at.
Sure. And you kind of covered this on one slide, but either Joe or Greg, will it also have any impact upon Edgewood or First Street? Does it go that far to look at those things?
Yeah, part of our goal, and this does go back to some of the alternatives that were looked at previously, both Sherburne County and the city of Becker, started this process. There were, I think in the most recent of those studies, actual alternatives that were shown. And I think folks even weighed in, MnDOT likes this one and the railroad likes this one. We are not going to just take that and throw that in the ash can and get rid of it. But we do have to, like I say, refresh, if you will, add the new traffic volumes, those types of things. If there's any ownership and user differences, we have to recognize that as well. So I'm sorry, did I answer your question?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, if I recall that Edgewood, regardless of, unless you moved the bridge somehow, if the bridge stayed roughly where the same footprint is right now, Edgewood would come out on the off-ramp, so that would absolutely not work. So
Right.
that would, in effect, almost everything we looked at, I think, sealed off Edgewood, whether you connected it with First Street or just teed it off or whatever.
Yeah.
So that became probably the more of the wild card, I guess, that was.
Yeah.
And that, depending on which one, generally kicked off a lot of discussions, so.
Yeah, and I think I got close, but I didn't get quite to that point when I was talking about the previous alternatives that were laid out. Those do have connections for the local system getting into US 10 as well as the north-south roadway as well.
Sure.
So yeah, that's going to be part of it.
Yep, and just for the public too, because I had this question last week, why would we be redoing Edgewood right now? Well, we need to redo Edgewood. We don't have a funding timeline on this, so it could be 10 years out yet.
Right.
So it's not like we can hold up that whole project based on this, so we're still moving forward. All right, any other questions for Joe? All right, well, thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we'll hopefully get a good turnout next Wednesday.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Moving on, we have the administrative fine amendments discussion for Jacob. It's sure to be a popular item.
Now the item you've all been waiting for. Not really, I know. But it's an important one. So, we wanted to bring this to you tonight. We've been working on this for some time. It's had some back and forth on it. But in the packet, you're provided the draft red lines for the administrative enforcement process. So, a lot of this was modeled off St. Francis's because BGS, our attorney, has had a lot of experience with St. Francis. They've also had some in other areas with administrative fine processes. This has been run past them. There's a few things we're still working on with PD. PD is working on a couple of items as well on this because this does impact them in Chapter 10, which they enforce for the most part. We do collaborate with them on a number of things as community development. But this does encompass all code enforcement. So enforcement of the city code and enforcement of the Unified Development Ordinance. The couple of key items in this, so the reason for this, it's just another tool in the toolbox. So it's not as if this is end all be all that everybody's gonna get fined for every single code enforcement action. That's not the intent. Really, the intent of code enforcement is voluntary. It's not to punish people, right? It's just to have them voluntarily comply. This is there for those cases where we have major issues with enforcement. With PD, theirs would be, it does impact them in the fee schedule. We did adjust a couple of those things. There was that whole chart that used to be in there that was pretty arduous for PD to go through, and Chris can, Chief Lindblom can talk about this if he wants to, but it was pretty arduous for them to, hey, I have to cite under this thing and it's 25 here, but it's 50 here, but it's 100 here. So some of those items for public works with weed and grass ordinances and snow removal, those were left, but a lot of it went to more of a straight stacked fee Where it's $50 across the board, it's much easier for them. In the provisions in here, a couple of key points to point out, and I'm not gonna go through all of the items in there because you've had them in the packet, an opportunity to review them. But it would, a couple of things we're working on with legal, criminalizing non-payment versus civil assessment of non-payment of fines. PD has a couple of things that need to probably state criminal, and so they're working with the city attorney on that to determine which lines those are. And when we talk about civil assessment, we mean if somebody does get fined under this, do they get assessed if they don't pay? And that's the preference, rather than going criminal, because as we know, the courts don't want to see a lot of the nuisance stuff come through the system, and it takes a long time. The assessment piece would say, well, if you're not paying, as the fines stack up, because it is a stacking system. If we get to the point to where we're fining somebody, it goes 50, and then you go to the, I think it's 100, and then beyond that. If you're stacking up those fines and they get to the point you're not paying, those get assessed to the property as well.
Just like a water bill, it would come back on next year's assessment?
Yep. It's because a lot of times what we're running into right now, we've had this happen in community development and with PD. People are paying a $25 fine for a junk storage, and then it's like, well, I don't know what we do about it, because if you send it to the county, a lot of times it's not being picked up. So they'll just continue to pay $25 every time, and then they can maintain the same condition. So that's one thing we're just clarifying PD on this. It's, again, discretionary. You know, it doesn't preclude the city from bringing criminal charges on certain aspects. It's just another tool that gives us discretion to proceed down that path. There's kind of three penalty options: payment of a penalty and correction of the violation. So if they do pay the penalty and they correct, if they get to the point, then there's no further action. If they pay the penalty but they don't correct the violation, then there can be subsequent citations or criminal proceedings or initiate any other. And then no payment of penalty, again, you can assess those as well. We do talk about abatement in here. Abatement is a harder thing with the courts these days. So whenever you have to abate, our attorney has advised us that you have to obtain an administrative warrant to abate. You can't just go on there and abate. So one of the things we've inserted into here is that there would be a form that we would provide, because sometimes if somebody gets to the point to where they can't afford to take care of the issue, they can sign a form saying we allow the city to come onto the site and abate the issue, and then all of that, the fees and anything would get assessed to the property, or it would be their responsibility. Abatement gets to be a pretty tricky process on some of these, especially what's junk, what's not junk, where do you store it, how long do you store it. So there is an avenue there that we're providing in the code edits as well. Should it get to the point to where they, well, when I say should it get to the point, if they get fined and they want to appeal, this is where the hearing process comes in. So there would be a hearing. They would have to request it within 10 days of receiving a citation. Once it's mailed or delivered to them, and then the hearing officer is somebody that's appointed by council.
Don't mail it.
So 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Yeah, or hand delivered, I guess. Yep, no PO boxes. So the neutral party would be whoever is appointed by the city council. We would work with BGS on that. They do know some individuals who do that stuff. So
Will this be, we have this with the dog ordinance where somebody could appeal that. Would this be
Correct.
the exact same party likely?
well, I don't know if it'd be the same party, but it's something we could, okay.
So it's
Chris
the same
says
whole
no,
process,
but it would be
so-
the same process, yeah.
It could be moving forward. The party that we use for the dogs, isn't doing that anymore, so if we got to that point, we'd probably have to find a new party for that, so it's the same process, so that person could be the same person.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that, to me, and we'll talk with legal, but that makes the most sense, is to have them be the same individual. So the hearing officer would come in, neutral party, again, working with legal on that, kind of similar. It's on the city to provide the evidence, so we have the burden of proof in that situation, but the hearing officer can make any judgment that they need to. Hey, you have to pay the fine. Hey, I'll waive portions of the fine. They can stay it. So any of those things you see in a typical hearing process, they can do. It's just an informal proceeding here. Once they make their decision, though, they make a finding. Once they make their decision, that becomes final. The appeal doesn't come to council or anything. It would go to the Court of Appeals if they do appeal the hearing officer's decision. So That's what we've been working on. Again, a couple of things from legal, some of the, again, the hearings to dispute fine amounts, rather than incentivizing, it's more of a, hey, you have to reach out to the city if you want to appeal the citation. So it puts it on the person to do it rather than us doing that. Civil penalty versus criminal non-payment, we've talked about that. And then just standardizing some terminology. We still have to work through that on civil penalty versus administrative fine, but I was talking to Greg about that. Civil penalty makes a lot of sense. We'll probably change things to make it civil penalty rather than administrative fine. Civil penalty carries more weight, really, and it's a little more serious. So those are the main points that I wanted to cover of what you're seeing in here. There's some other ancillary edits that we're working through just to clarify some things with commissions, the Unified Development Ordinance, making sure that that's all cleaned up as well. There's some weed ordinance stuff. So there's some minor things that we are clearing up in here as well. We are also work with Shannon too on the codification. So a lot of this would likely become part of that process, the codification process, make it a lot cleaner and neater to go through. So. Any questions, concerns? And I know we've talked about this a while ago, but we're closer to getting it to where we're ready to bring it forward, so.
Are you just talking about chapter 1 right now?
We're actually talking about 1, 2, and 10. So chapter 1 is the process.
Yep.
Chapter 10 would be impacted because there's a chart in there. From the finding standpoint, that'll all get removed and changed. And there's a few things that Chris is working on, Chief Lindblom is working on that side with legal.
Sure. Like on chapter 2, I was just wondering, community development, is that just in there as a definition, like?
Oh, you're talking about, yep. So it's just adding some of those, like, to make sure it's clarified on who's who and where, yep. And then like you'll see Unified Development Ordinance in chapter 2 when it says Board of Adjustments, officers, things like that.
Yep, I didn't know when we're naming titles, if we don't have a title, how that all works. And
yep, and it can be or as assigned, we can add that. We did that with the other thing with so we had a code enforcement officer in there, but it was getting a little confusing because Public Works was mentioned. If it's not a director, well, is it an assistant director? And so Greg suggested, and I think it was it just says city administrator or assigned for a code enforcement officer.
That's perfect. Just I get a lot of questions about that, and I'm not in favor of us hiring a code enforcement officer personally to drive around and nitpick everybody. So people call me about that all the time and ask why we don't have that, and I'm not in favor of doing that personally.
And we're not either.
Not it.
We're not in favor of doing that either. We're complaint based for a reason, like many small communities. Again, the goal is not to penalize people for violating the code. It's really compliance. This is reserved for cases, and again, PD will probably use some of these more than we will in community development. I talked to Austin about this. We went through this past, I think it was September, and I talked to him today about it. We had 3.
I can think of one.
Yep, you brought 3 homes that would have reached this point. So where they would go through and probably either request a hearing or they're gonna get assessed. But it is another tool that we have in the toolbox that allows us to do some additional enforcement, and it has more teeth than what we currently have. And that's part of the issue. Again, I know I've hit on it, but we've run into that a number of times. That's been a big problem. People just pay it and then we're kind of stuck.
Cheaper than a storage locker.
Yeah.
Right. So when we have all the amounts kind of crossed off, can you just talk about that?
Yeah, in chapter 10?
Yeah.
Yep. So the amounts there, I talked with Chief Lindblom on these items. So that whole section there was duplicated previously. So it was, not only was it in here, but it was also in the fee schedule.
Yep.
So you'd have to update both. It's getting rid of this whole chart in here, and what is referenced is just the fee schedule.
Perfect. Yep.
And now it's no longer, hey, it's 25 or 20 or 50. It's just your first violation is 50. Second violation, if you continue to push it, is X.
Yep.
So. So there's some other minor amendments in chapter 10, just clarifying a few things, abatement, code enforcement officer, so that they're all related together.
Sure.
And it's not a, oh, yeah, go right
I
ahead.
just want real quick, just in case the question comes up with that fee change to the 50. So there are some things in our fee schedule for things that we issued tickets for that went down. Some that stayed the same, some that went up, for that 50. One of the things I worked with Jacob on was, the ability in the wording in here will allow police department, we don't have to go to that next level. So like an example would be, somebody gets a winter parking ticket and 3 weeks later, they do it again. We have the ability to say, we're just gonna give you the same parking ticket, as opposed to going to $100 ticket or $150. So we did include language in there. We use our discretion at the police department for that reason, so that we don't, it's not an automatic, like the second time's 100. We can use that discretion. It just, again, provides more teeth if we should need it, to be able to progress those fines for those that don't wanna make that change or come into compliance, so.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Chief. That's a good point, and it gives us the same ability in community development, so, and public works.
Yeah. On that, like weekly on the mayor's listserv, people are talking about this and it's all over the board and it's hard because you want your city to look nice, but you also don't, like I said, I don't think we need to be driving by everybody's house every day,
Right.
you know, so.
Some people will.
Some people will, for sure.
We just don't have, having the staff time to do that is just not feasible. I mean, when you look at it, the amount of time it takes to write and Austin can tell you this, and I can too, but the amount of time it takes to write a letter, send the letter out, mail the letter, follow up, the imaging, the documentation, it's a lot just for one enforcement. So having somebody drive around do that, it's just, for small communities, just doesn't work.
I think it's helped me personally just to think, if I'm really uncomfortable asking, you guys to go out and enforce this, then maybe we don't need it in our, that's how I've tried to think about it. If I really feel like a stooge, cause, I'm like, man, I don't, I didn't do it, yes, I did.
Right.
I have the ability, just like everybody else, to change the code, be a part of the process. So, if I'm uncomfortable with that, for that reason, then maybe we should have
Yeah,
it.
and I think if we've had this discussion before at Planning Commission, but if we have a number of complaints that are very similar in what they are, and we're getting a ton of them, well, then is that something that you're changing? Are you sticking with it? Is it something you need to change? And so, to your point, we track that. It's part of why we went through the whole rezone unified development ordinance.
I was just gonna point out, I think the UDO is much easier to understand with the pictures and things like that. And maybe this gives us a chance, if we track that, to look at public education too, because a lot of times people are unaware and don't know. So if we can
Absolutely.
maybe make that part of it where we are proactively saying, hey, did you know this is the ordinance? Here's what needs to be done.
One example of that, you mentioned that, we've actually talked about it and it'll be going out this spring. We didn't do it in the summer because it was kind of midsummer and we didn't want to. But some of the commercial frontages and pieces, just a nice letter, here's some new ordinance requirements, signage, things like that, so they're aware of those. So we have talked about doing more education. And then when people do get hit with a complaint from a neighbor, most of the time, they have no idea that they're in violation of anything. And so Austin's done a really good job of this, and we try to make sure that they're well-informed and educated on what it is, where it's at. Most people are pretty good about complying or responding when they get a violation letter. It's just a few that don't.
Sure. All right, any more questions, or do you have more?
Nope.
Any questions for Jacob? Do you need any?
No, just making sure that you didn't have any concerns or issues with it. It won't be brought at the next meeting. We still have a few things that Chief is working out, so we have a few things to massage, but we'll bring that back at a future meeting here.
I saw the grass went to, I think it was 8 inches.
Yeah, because it was 6 in one and 8 in another, and so we got to clarify that too, because that's terrible. When you get somebody, it's like, oh, what is it? Well, it's 6 or 8. It's hard to tell them, and I know.
Oh, 7.
Yeah, right. So we changed that, and we'll look for any other discrepancies in there too, just to make sure, but it's been I just want to say I appreciate everybody's effort on this too. It's a collaborative thing on something like this. It's not a small feat. especially to tackle 3 chapters that relate to each other, as Shannon probably well knows with codification, so.
Sure.
Don't memorize the chapter.
Right.
Chapter 11 is burned in my head. That's,
It's been repealed, Rick. It's gone.
I know, but it'll always be chapter 11. It doesn't matter.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
All right, roundtable. Council have anything?
Not me.
No.
I don't either. All right, can adjourn at 6:09.
Yeah, some things will, just like when you say the new zoo, doesn't matter.
Hey, Chris, do you have 20 seconds?
Yes. Oh, I learned this today, so it'll, if you can.
You know more than I do.
You can roll up in there and you can have different settings on how you want it to work, so it can let me know when you do it, and then it basically gives you the output says, hey, if everybody agrees on the date, the earliest date that works for everybody is automatically. So whatever I.